Today's Gazette coverage once again turns its attention to Prince Harry, presenting a familiar storyline that has followed him for years. The language is carefully chosen, restrained on the surface, yet heavy with implication. Words like lonely, distant, and isolated appear quietly, shaping perception without offering depth. Yet this portrayal says far more about the media lens than it does about the man himself. Prince Harry's life has never been empty of connection. If anything, it has been filled to excess with attention, expectation, and pressure. From childhood, his experiences unfolded in public view, often without protection or pause. Moments of grief, growth, and confusion were not given privacy. They became content. To interpret his later decisions as loneliness is to misunderstand the cost of that exposure. Loneliness is often mistaken for distance. When someone steps away from noise, observers assume absence of purpose. In reality, distance can be an act of care. It can be the deliberate creation of space needed to breathe, reflect, and heal. Prince Harry's journey reflects that truth. The idea of coming back home carries emotional weight because home is not simply a place on a map. It is memory, it is identity, it is belonging shaped over time. For Harry, the United Kingdom will always be part of who he is. It holds his childhood, his service, his friendships, and his losses. Acknowledging that bond does not diminish the life he has built elsewhere. It honours it. UK media narratives often frame his relationship with home as unfinished or broken. Either he must return fully or remain permanently separated. That framing ignores the complexity of adult identity. People evolve. Relationships change. Connection does not disappear simply because distance exists. Prince Harry did not abandon his country. He stepped away from an environment that had become emotionally unsustainable. That decision was not impulsive. It followed years of strain, warnings, and lived experience. Choosing well-being over expectation required courage. Loneliness is an easy label. It invites speculation while avoiding responsibility. It allows commentary without accountability. But loneliness is not defined by geography or headlines. It is defined by whether someone feels safe, understood, and respected. Much of today's coverage overlooks the reality that Harry's life remains full of purpose. He continues to engage deeply with causes that matter to him. He supports veterans, advocates for mental health, and speaks openly about resilience. These commitments require connection, empathy, and sustained effort. They do not emerge from isolation. The portrayal of Harry as lonely also ignores partnership. His life is not defined by separation but by shared values and mutual support. Strength does not always appear in traditional forms. Sometimes it appears as restraint, sometimes as protection, sometimes as the refusal to expose private life for public approval. The suggestion that Harry longs to come back home because he is unhappy simplifies a far richer reality. Longing for home is human. It does not signal regret, it signals memory and belonging. One can cherish home while also protecting oneself from harm associated with it. UK media hostility toward Harry has rarely softened, even as his circumstances changed. Criticism often persists regardless of action. This consistency suggests that the narrative is less about behaviour and more about expectation. When someone refuses to perform a prescribed role, resistance follows. Prince Harry's experiences with loss continue to shape his worldview. Losing a parent in public view alters how one understands safety and exposure. That experience does not fade with time. It informs decisions, boundaries, and priorities long into adulthood. The Gazette's tone today reflects an ongoing struggle to accept that independence does not equal abandonment, that setting boundaries does not equal rejection, that choosing peace does not equal failure. Support for Harry means recognizing his humanity beyond headlines. He is not a symbol to be reshaped for commentary. He is a person navigating life with the weight of history and the clarity of experience. The loneliness narrative also distracts from a larger issue. It shifts focus away from how public figures are treated and how much autonomy they are allowed. It frames personal choice as emotional deficiency rather than strength. Harry's connection to home remains evident in his respect for service and shared values. His military record reflects commitment rather than detachment. Distance has not erased that dedication. It has simply allowed it to exist without constant intrusion. Coming back home, if and when it happens, should be an act of welcome, not judgment. It should prioritize safety, dignity, and respect. Media speculation often ignores these fundamentals, focusing instead on optics and conflict. Prince Harry's journey demonstrates that growth often requires leaving familiar structures behind. That process can be misunderstood by those who equate tradition with obligation. Yet growth is not disloyalty. It is evolution. The UK media's resistance to his choices reflects discomfort with disruption. Harry challenged a system that demanded endurance without protection. By stepping away, he exposed vulnerabilities within that system. Such exposure often invites backlash. Loneliness, when repeated often enough, becomes a narrative weapon. It encourages pity or criticism rather than understanding. It positions the subject as diminished rather than deliberate. In reality, Harry's life today reflects intention. He has chosen clarity over chaos, purpose over performance, well-being over expectation. These choices do not erase difficulty, but they provide stability. Home is strongest when it allows those who return to do so safely. It does not demand silence or sacrifice of mental health. It offers space, not scrutiny. Prince Harry deserves that space. He deserves the freedom to define his relationship with home on his own terms. He deserves empathy rather than speculation. The idea that he is lonely because he is no longer constantly visible misunderstands the nature of connection. Visibility does not equal belonging. Silence does not equal absence. Harry's story is not one of exile. It is one of recalibration, of learning what matters and acting accordingly. UK media coverage often reduces that journey to conflict. But growth is rarely neat. It does not follow predictable arcs. It challenges comfort. Support for Harry does not require agreement with every choice. It requires fairness. It requires recognition that personal well-being is not a betrayal. As today's Gazette stories circulate, it is worth pausing before accepting their framing. Headlines are brief. Lives are not. Loneliness sells. Complexity requires patience. Prince Harry's connection to home will always exist. It lives in memory, service, and identity. Returning home, in any form, should be guided by compassion rather than expectation. He is not a man without anchor. He is someone who has chosen to live deliberately, shaped by experience rather than demand. The media may continue to frame his story through absence, yet presence exists where purpose lives. Prince Harry's journey continues forward, not backward. It is marked by resilience, reflection, and the courage to choose a life aligned with values. That is not loneliness. That is growth lived quietly and intentionally, and he deserves the grace to live it.